Slayer has become my favorite class to play in Vermintide. It's high speed, high damage melee gameplay, and very rewarding if you're able to pull it off. He's a melee DPS that's on the tankier side of things, but most importantly, he just likes to go in. And with Warpick getting a big glow up recently, I figured now was the perfect time to finally do a guide on my favorite class in the game. This guide will mostly be for people playing on the official server, but I will talk about team compositions and the overall approach to playing Slayer that may be helpful to the modded realm folks. But without further ado, let's learn how to play Slayer. When it comes to melee weapons, Slayer is all about making the weapons you want to play work. You can use any of the melee weapons you like to use, especially now that the one-handed axe has gotten a buff. He has 3 weapons I think are the most powerful, but know that there are no bad weapons for Slayer. He makes the great axe actually pretty good, and can make great use of the throwing axe. So there really is no bad choice. So let's talk weapon combinations. You can really run any weapon combination you want to, and you can build your talent build around that. So I wouldn't worry about your talent build first, I would worry about your weapon choice first. So if you want me to just give you a few strong options, the main weapons I used before the Warpick changes was dual hammers in the first slot and then cog hammer in the second slot. You have dual hammers for horde clear, and then cog hammer for armored enemies. And I would also sub out those dual hammers for the dual axes, specifically for Skaven maps. With dual axes, you're probably going to want to take extra stamina and the extra crit chance since they're a finesse weapon, which means you got to take block cost reduction on the cog hammer. You need block cost reduction on one of your weapons. There is a lot of reasons for this, but I think most importantly, it's so you're able to revive your teammate in the middle of a horde. I don't see block cost reduction enough these days. Another common combination is the Great Axe and the Great Hammer. You have the Great Axe for single target DPS, and then you have the Great Hammer for hordes and mixed hordes. Great Hammer can also do a good job at staggering everything in a patrol fight. Although Great Hammer will do better DPS against Chaos Warriors, or if you're hitting any armored enemy you can't reliably hit headshots on. The Great Axe is very much about the headshots. I like to run Opportunist on Great Hammer. You don't have to do this. I don't think it hits any meaningful breakpoints, but it will make some of your fights feel easier. I'm swapping out between the Great Axe and Great Hammer actively a lot during every fight. I can just get Swift Slaying from the Great Axe and then have some extra stagger for the Great Hammer. That's a bit of a personal thing. Swift Slaying is completely fine on Great Hammer as well. Now Warpick can actually do both horde clear and armored and mixed horde. So I think if I was going to power game, I would bring it with the cog hammer so that way you still have the ability to just wipe out patrols. But it will fit with any of his weapons. While we're talking about builds, let me quickly go over the necklace, charm, and trinket. The necklace, you want health and block cost reduction and bark skin. That's just going to make you as tanky as possible. Like I said earlier, block cost reduction is mostly for reviving your teammates. Also helps you with not dying immediately after you get revived. For the charm, you're going to want attack speed and power burst Skaven. This power burst Skaven will help you hit that breakpoint of one-shotting a storm vermin with the cog hammer. And we don't really have to bend over backwards for breakpoints on Slayer, so I typically just go with attack speed. And for the trait, I would go with proxy, with the exception that if you were the only boss damage on your team, you can definitely take decanter. For the trinket, crit chance and stamina recovery as per the standard. You can swap out the crit chance for curse resistance if you're doing book runs, playing on legend, and then shrapnel as it's going to help you delete bosses. By the way, you can run this setup on pretty much any character and it will work. The only one you really want to be changing a lot is the charm, which can help you hit some breakpoints. I'm going to leave the boss damage test I did up on screen as I talk about which weapons I think are best. In my opinion, the 3 strongest weapons on him are the dual axes, the dual hammers, and the cog hammer. The dual axes just has really good unarmored DPS, does pretty good against storm vermin, will struggle a bit against chaos warriors, and it also has really good boss damage. Then you have dual hammers, which is just an excellent horde clear weapon, and it's really good at generating THP for you. And it does okay enough against armored. And then you have the cog hammer, which has some of the highest DPS against armored in the game. You can just one-shot headshot a storm vermin without building for a breakpoint. And on Slayer, those heavies come out really fast. And then we have the Warpick. I am hesitant to put it in the same echelon as the cog hammer, but it is a really good option here as well. The Warpick does not have as high DPS as the cog hammer has, The Cog Hammer is probably going to do better horde clear, but the War Pick will do way better into mixed horde situations because the War Pick got a new third heavy attack, which only chains from light 2, but breaks shields. It will break any shield that it cleaves into. The most I've seen is 3. This is the only horizontal swipe in the game that breaks shields, which is very, very useful. And if you full charge the heavy on the War Pick, then you will just straight up ignore shields with that attack. So really, that's the biggest advantage of the War Pick, is the ability to deal with shields, and that is kind of a big deal because shields are one of the most annoying enemies in the game. And also, the War Pick is just really fun. Most of Bardin's melee combos are actually pretty simple, but I will go over the more nuanced ones. So let's start with dual axes. You can think of dual axes as Bardin's version of the dual daggers. It's all about headshots, it's all about crits. The weapon isn't good if you're not hitting headshots or crits. And we don't really have any horde clear attacks with the dual axes. So for hordes, we are just spamming lights. And you can totally get away with this when you're fighting Skaven. Much harder to do so against other factions. Against armored, you're doing chain heavy attacks, but the nuance of the dual axes is the push attack. The push attack is very good single target DPS. If you push attack heavy a storm vermin in the head, it will die, which is a very fast combo. And counterintuitively, it is actually better to do light attacks against a monster rather than chain heavies. Again, just make sure you're aiming for the head. You have pretty good boss DPS, but if it's the Warp Fiend, you want to do chain heavies because it's armored. With dual hammers, your horde clear combo is light, heavy, heavy. You can also get away with spamming lights if you need to quickly make some space for yourself. With dual hammers against armored enemies, your best option is to do heavy 1 block cancel, though generally I just pull out my other weapon if I'm fighting armored enemies on Slayer. So then let's talk War Pick. This used to be a really simple weapon, but it has become a lot more dynamic. So for horde clear, you can do light spam, that you can totally get away with that, but the combo I would recommend is push attack, light, heavy. That will get you that new third heavy, which will break shields, and it has good stagger, and it has some armor damage. And just so you know, that third heavy, you can still full charge it into the charged attack, which gives you the ability to react to what's happening in front of you. So you could clear the chaff out with the push attack light, and then full charge that last heavy to kill a storm vermin or whatever it is. Now for armored enemies, let's talk about these heavy attacks. You don't want to do the full charge unless you have the space to do so. You will know you have the full charge when Bardin raises his elbow. You can let go of the attack as soon as he does that and you will have the full charge. Now you are definitely leaving yourself open for a significant amount of time while you're charging that attack, so I would definitely dodge while you are charging it. But as I said, you don't want to do this if you don't have the space. If you're in the middle of a patrol, trying to charge up a heavy is a death sentence. So in those situations, you're just going to be doing the normal heavy. That uncharged heavy will not one-shot a storm vermin, even though it looks like it should, which is part of why I said Cog Hammer is a good option to take with the War Pick for those situations where you don't have the space to charge up your attack. And of course, anytime you see a storm vermin with shield or a bulwark, you're going for that full charge. Or if you have a good frontliner on your team, you could step back, do the charge, and go back in and kind of joust like that. You can two-shot a bulwark with Dowey Drop. Okay, so then let's talk talents. Now, as I said earlier, you're going to build your talents around your weapons. For the level 5 talent, the only time you want to take Sting is with dual axes. For most of the weapons, you're going to want to take Execute, but Carve is good with dual hammers and the Great Hammer. And for the level 10 talent, if you're using two-handed weapons, then you want to take Skull Splitter. If not, you want to take Hack and Slash. It's really as simple as that. I don't really recommend 1,000 cuts unless you have a very specific reason, like running quadruple axe. Generally, Hack and Slash will give you better DPS than 1,000 cuts will. The rule of thumb for the 15 talents is that if you are a melee class and you have a smiter, you take it. For level 20, I recommend Adrenaline Surge. It's going to give you the most DPS out of these. For Impatience, I generally don't recommend movement speed. We don't really need movement speed when we can already dodge around. And High Tally will increase your DPS, but the thing with Adrenaline Surge is that for a lot of fights, you're just going to have 100% uptime on your ult. And our ult gives us 30% attack speed. And when you account for the duration of the ult, it's effectively on cooldown for 30 seconds. Adrenaline Surge just gets rid of that if you're in a fight. If you took High Tally, you would be missing out on 30 seconds of 30% increased attack speed. And for that, you would get an extra 10% damage. So I definitely recommend Adrenaline Surge over the other two. For level 25, this depends on the weapon you are using. If you have a weapon where you are using heavy attacks, then Grimnir's Focus is the choice. If you're using mostly light attacks, then Oblivious to Pain is the choice. Barge can be powerful, but it's hard to give up 40% damage reduction or the ability to just tank an overhead. For level 30, both Crunch and Dowie Drop are good. I would say if you're running Warpick or Coghammer, I think Dowie Drop is definitely worth it. With Dowie Drop, you can two-shot a Bulwark with the Warpick, and you can also annihilate a Chaos Warrior with the Coghammer. And something that the tooltip does not tell you is that your stagger power is also increased while you're in the air. You could do a short leap and push in the air and get effectively the same effect of Crunch. It doesn't have to be a push though. It could be like with Pickaxe, it could be the third heavy. That's one I like to do. It could be a Great Hammer heavy. You get the idea. But if you don't want to bother with trying to hit attacks while you're airborne, Crunch is a very good option as well. Dowie Drop was kind of a meme for a while, but I think it's actually good. I didn't know that it increases stagger as well. And you can do some goofy stuff with no escape, but as I've said, I don't really recommend movement speed as a stat to take. Okay, so then let's talk about team composition. This will apply to both modded difficulties and the official realm. Slayer fits in as a high DPS frontliner. I wouldn't necessarily pick him as a solo frontliner though, because he doesn't have the ability to stagger things like Ironbreaker or Foot Knight does, or even Warrior Priest. So Slayer and Foot Knight are kind of a match made in heaven. They make up for each other's weaknesses. Slayer's high DPS helps make up for Foot Knight's lack of DPS, and Foot Knight's ability to stagger everything makes up for Slayer's ability to not do that. And if Foot Knight is taking Comrades in arms, he makes Slayer even more tanky and makes him put out even more DPS. So if you want a solid frontline, these two are definitely it. A great option for the third slot is Witch Hunter Captain. Outside of just being a little OP, he's going to give Slayer more crit chance, and Slayer scales really well with crit chance, especially if he's using dual axes. Witch Hunt will make Slayer's DPS even higher, and he can also pick off specials here and there. So then your last slot is a special sniper. So the go-to pick for special sniping is Waystalker. You really can't go wrong with that pick here, but you could also swap that out for Sister of the Thorn if your Witch Hunter Captain is confident in killing specials. And if you don't want Elf, Pyromancer would also be a great pick here, as she scales with crit, which Witch Hunter Captain will help with. Though you might want to have her on Bolt Staff so she can deal with specials easily. And with that same logic, Necromancer is a great pick as well. Probably want Soul Stealer Staff on the Necromancer. So that's the team comp I would go with if I was going to power game, but I'll give you guys another one that's a bit more fun. And the idea with this team composition will be just to have so much DPS that you can run the map over. So let's throw in Grail Knight and Shade with the Slayer, just to establish that bosses don't get to live with this team comp. And to really put this team over the top, I would put Witch Hunter Captain in the fourth slot. Surprise, surprise. Giving crit chance to both Shade and Slayer and Grail Knight is just a scary idea. And with Witch Hunt, bosses will be taking 20% more damage from everybody. So then let's talk strategy. And it's actually really simple on Slayer. You just want to go in and do as much damage as you possibly can. You hold the front line until you have no health. Actually, the trick here is to not overextend. You don't want to leap into a middle of the horde. You don't want to leap into the middle of a patrol unless your team is with you. If you're a very skilled Slayer player, you could probably just solo a patrol, but that's generally not a good practice because it's really risky. Now, if you were to ult into the middle of a patrol with a Foot Knight also ulting into the middle of it, then you have a good play. So you want to be aggressive on Slayer. You want to be playing on the border of being too risky. Though it's very, very important that you are with your team, that you're not leaving somebody behind. Running ahead of your team to fight everything solo is a quick way to lose the game. And when in doubt, just fight with whoever else is on the front line on your team. I always stick by the rule of 2 in Vermintide. You want to be next to at least one person on your team, and you want to make sure that nobody is alone. So ideally, you're in a group of 4 all the time, but if you have to, you split into 2 groups of 2. You want to master controlling the distance of your leap as well. If you look at the ground in front of you and ult, then it will just be like a tiny short hop. So when you're fighting a horde, it's best to do a short hop in front of you to keep the uptime on your ult. Like I said, you can have 100% uptime on your ult when you're fighting a horde. You just need to be hitting things. And there is a revive tech with his ult. If you hold down E or whichever button it is to revive your teammate and press your ult button while you're holding down revive, you will leap away and still get the revive off. That makes Slayer very good at clutching and very good at getting a teammate up in a sticky situation. You are a very aggressive, high speed, high damage slaughtering machine, but you are still a team player. When it comes to boss fights, remember that they are the lowest priority. If the boss is not aggroed onto you, then you need to be clearing the horde, the specials, elites, or whatever else there is, and then kill the boss last. I know it's kind of hard to resist just wailing away on the boss when you have really good boss DPS, but if you're disciplined on Slayer, you'll have a much higher win rate. And if you're in an organized team, you can be the one to take boss aggro, as you are pretty good at soloing bosses. And also, Slayer is a bit better at killing specials than you might think. When you ult, you are immune to being pushed away by a warp fire thrower or a rattling gunner, and you can one-shot both of those specials with the cog hammer or the war pick. So you definitely need to be looking for kills you can get on specials, though again, the trick here is to not overextend. Don't put yourself in a bad position to kill a rattling gunner. Okay, and I think that will do it for the Slayer guide. He's my favorite class to play in the game right now, and he's highly rewarding if you can get good at him. And he's very good. He has a really good spot in a team comp, though he can definitely struggle if he's dropped into the wrong team comp. You don't necessarily want him as a solo frontliner. So I appreciate you guys spending your time watching, listening to me talk about Vermintide. I stream every Tuesday at 6:30 Central Standard Time. I'd be happy to see you guys there. And I think next, as far as videos go, I'm looking at making some Darktide videos. I'm really hyped for the new class, the Skitari, and I definitely have some things to say when it comes to Darktide. But don't worry, I'm not leaving Vermintide behind. I probably never will. If you like the video, hit a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.